I've been sitting on this story for a long time. Honestly, I wasn't sure if I should even share it, because it still gives me chills just thinking about it. You know how sometimes you experience something so messed up, you just can't make sense of it, and you try to convince yourself it wasn't real? Yeah, that's what I've been doing for years. But I guess I'll just start from the beginning. It was a couple of years ago, back when I lived in that old house on the outskirts of town. Do you remember? The one right by that huge stretch of woods? Yeah, that place. It was a nice enough area, pretty quiet, but those woods, they always gave me weird vibes, even during the day. Anyway, back then I was working late nights at this office job. Nothing special, just the kind of job that sucks up all your time and energy but pays the bills. So this one particular night I ended up staying late at work. Again. It was the middle of the week. I was dead tired, and all I wanted to do was get home and collapse into bed. You know how it is. By the time I left the office, it had to be around 10:30, maybe closer to 11. The whole town was basically asleep. Barely any cars on the road. The sky was that deep black where you can't tell where the horizon ends and the night begins. I could feel the exhaustion setting in, but I figured I could push through it. After all, I'd taken that walk through the woods a million times before. Now let me tell you about this shortcut. It was a little path that cut through the woods behind my house. You could take the main road if you wanted to, but it was such a pain. It would add an extra 20 minutes to your trip, and when you're tired and just want to get home, that shortcut starts to look real tempting. The path wasn't paved or anything. It was just a dirt trail, maybe 10 or 15 minutes tops from start to finish. During the day, it was actually pretty nice. Birds chirping, a breeze through the trees, the whole getting back to nature vibe. But at night, it was a different story. So, of course, I decided to take the shortcut. I wasn't worried. Like I said, I'd done it 100 times before, and the moon was out, casting just enough light to see the path. I didn't even bother with my phone's flashlight. That probably sounds crazy now, but at the time I was just too tired to care. The first few minutes were fine. I walked along, listening to the crunch of my boots on the dirt and enjoying the quiet. It was almost peaceful, you know. That sort of late-night stillness where everything seems calm. I thought it was going to be like any other night, a quick walk through the woods, then I'd be home. But about 5 minutes in, things started to get weird. It wasn't anything obvious at first. Just this subtle feeling, like something was off. The kind of feeling you get when you walk into a room and sense that someone's watching you. My pace slowed down a little, and I started scanning the trees around me, even though I knew there was nothing there. Or at least I thought there was nothing there. And that's when I noticed it. The silence. Now I don't know how much time you've spent in the woods, but even at night there's always noise. Crickets, owls, wind rustling through the branches. There's always something. But not that night. It was dead quiet. I didn't even hear my own footsteps anymore. And that's when I realized just how alone I was. I don't know how to describe it other than oppressive. The kind of silence that presses in on you from all sides, like it's wrapping you up and squeezing you tight. It felt unnatural. I kept walking, trying to brush it off. Maybe the animals were just resting or something. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. I could feel it, that growing sense of unease crawling up my spine. My pace quickened a little. I didn't want to admit that I was spooked, but I was. Every instinct I had was screaming at me to turn back, to get out of those woods as fast as I could. But for some reason, I kept going. Then I heard it. At first, it was just this faint sound like a whisper carried on the wind. You ever hear something so low that you're not even sure if it's real? That's what it was like. This barely audible murmur, like voices speaking in the distance, but too quiet for me to make out any words. I stopped dead in my tracks and strained my ears, trying to figure out where it was coming from. But the longer I listened, the more I realized the sound wasn't coming from one place. It was all around me, above me, below me, everywhere. I whipped around trying to see if someone was messing with me, but I didn't see a damn thing. Just trees and shadows. I can't tell you why, but instead of turning back, I kept walking. My brain was telling me to get the hell out of there, but my legs, they had a mind of their own. It was like I was on autopilot, like I was being pulled forward. I tried to stop myself, but I couldn't. My body just wouldn't listen. As I walked, the whispers got louder. They didn't sound like words exactly, more like a constant, urgent murmur. It was almost like they were trying to tell me something, but I couldn't understand them. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might explode out of my chest. And then, I realized something that made my blood run cold. The path ahead of me. It wasn't ending. This shortcut was supposed to be quick, right? Like I said, 10, maybe 15 minutes tops. But I had been walking for way longer than that, and I wasn't getting anywhere. It was like the trail was stretching out in front of me, elongating with every step. I should have been almost at the end by now, but all I could see was more trees, more darkness. No sign of my house, no break in the woods, just more. I glanced back over my shoulder, and for a second, I thought about running back the way I came. But when I looked behind me, the path was gone. No, seriously, it was gone. 1 second it was there, and the next it had just disappeared. All I saw were trees, thick and tall, stretching into the sky like they'd been there for centuries. The path I had just walked on, gone, like it had never existed. At that point, I was panicking. My breath was coming in short, ragged gasps, and I could feel sweat trickling down the back of my neck despite the cool night air. I tried to calm myself down, telling myself it was just my mind playing tricks on me. But deep down, I knew something was very, very wrong. That's when I saw it. Up ahead, standing in the middle of the path, or what should have been the path, was this figure. At first I thought it was a person, maybe some idiot playing a prank, but as I got closer I realized it wasn't right. It was tall, too tall. Its limbs were long and thin, like they'd been stretched, and its body was flickering. I don't even know how to describe it, but it was like it wasn't fully there, like it was glitching in and out of reality. You know how a bad video feed looks, all static and distortion? That's what this thing looked like. I froze. For a moment, I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. I was just standing there, staring at this thing, and it was staring right back at me. Or at least I think it was. It didn't have a face that I could see, but I could feel its eyes on me. You ever feel like someone's watching you so intensely that you can feel their gaze? That's what it felt like. Only worse. So much worse. The air around me grew colder, and I swear to God the temperature dropped by at least 10 degrees in a matter of seconds. My breath came out in visible puffs, and I could feel my hands start to shake. I wanted to scream, to run, to do something, but my body was locked in place. I couldn't move. I couldn't even blink. I don't know how long we stood there just staring at each other, but it felt like an eternity. And then, without warning, the whispers started again. Only this time, they were louder. Much louder. It felt like they were inside my head, like they were trying to drill their way into my skull. I clapped my hands over my ears, trying to block them out, but it didn't help. They just kept getting louder and louder, this constant stream of noise that was driving me insane. And then, the thing moved. It didn't walk. It didn't run. It just glided toward me. Its limbs dragging across the ground like dead weight. It was fast. Way faster than anything that size should have been. I could feel my heart racing, my mind screaming at me to move, to do something. But I was paralyzed with fear. Finally, when it was almost on top of me, something inside me snapped. I don't know what it was. Maybe pure survival instinct, but I broke free from whatever hold it had on me, and I ran. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I could hear it behind me, that horrible dragging sound getting closer and closer. The whispers were so loud now I could barely think. They were swirling around me like a storm in my mind, and I could feel that thing gaining on me. My lungs were burning, my legs screaming in protest, but I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. And then, just like that, I was out. 1 second I was in the woods, and the next, I was standing on the side of the road, panting and gasping for air. The woods were gone. The path was gone. Everything was back to normal, like nothing had happened. But I knew better. I never took that shortcut again after that night. In fact, I moved away not long after. I still think about it sometimes, though. I still hear the whispers in my dreams. And every once in a while, when I'm alone, I feel that cold chill down my spine, like something's watching me, like it's waiting. So, yeah, that's my story. You don't have to believe me, but trust me on this. If you ever find yourself walking through the woods at night and things start to feel off, turn around. Get out while you still can. Because once you see something like that, once you feel it, you're never really the same.